I think we're going to begin. Good evening. My name is Marty Schickman, and I'm director of the Center for Jewish Studies here at Eastern Michigan University. Before we begin tonight's program, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our next event. I'm deeply honored to announce that our next speaker will be Holly Hufnagel, U.S. Director for Combating Anti-Semitism for the American Jewish Committee, the AJC. Before coming to the AJC, Ms. Hufnagel served as policy advisor to the Special Envoy to Monitor and Combat Anti-Semitism at the U.S. State Department, and as researcher in the Mandel Center of Advanced Holocaust Studies at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. Most recently, she was scholar in residence at Oxford University with the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy. Ms. Hufnagel will discuss After Auschwitz Anti-Semitism in America on the eve of International Holocaust Remembrance Day, Tuesday, January 26, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. So please do mark your calendars. Tonight's lecture offers something more joyous for our troubled times. To celebrate the Festival of Lights, and I'm delighted to wish Happy Hanukkah to all of you. We welcome, no war on Hanukkah here, by the way. We welcome Meg Adler. Ms. Adler is a Jewish educator and illustrator born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. She holds a BA from UCLA in creative writing, and let's hear for the English people, and a master's in religion from Yale Divinity. She founded her illustration company, Letters Aligned, in 2014, starting with simple lettering projects, and since then, it has morphed into an inspiring, mission-led community. Tonight's presentation is co-sponsored by Hillel at Eastern Michigan University, EMU's Campus Life, the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor, and the Harold Grinspoon Foundation. I also want to offer a special shout out to CJS friends, Harleen and Henry Appleman. If you have any questions for Meg, please place them in the Zoom Q&A located at the bottom of your screen, and we'll ask Meg to discuss them at the conclusion of her talk. And for now, sip and sketch for Hanukkah, people, with Meg Adler.
All right, L'chaim. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sketch and Sip. By way of introductions, I want to know a little bit about you as well as I'm going to teach you a little bit about me. So in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just share what you're sipping and where you're calling in from. This is optional if you'd like to share. And I'll tell you, my name is Meg. I'm sipping a Sonoma County Chardonnay out of a Temple Sinai tumbler, which is my home synagogue here. I got it for the high holidays. And I'm calling from Oakland, California. So I'm going to take a sip, L'chaim. That's really the sip part of the evening. Just make sure you're sipping throughout. I'll give you some reminders. Whatever you're sipping, I hope it is luxurious for you, even if it's just perfectly chilled water. Exactly, delicious water. There you go. Perfect. Awesome. Welcome. So we're going to do a couple things tonight. We're going to start by hearing a little bit about why I'm here talking to you and what I do with my illustration company. We're then going to do a little warm up with our sketching. So make sure you have some paper with you, a pen. It could be any pen that you find in a junk drawer. It doesn't have to be fancy. Then we're going to talk about what is Hanukkah. We have a holiday coming up tomorrow, and it could not be more perfectly timed because it's a holiday, in my opinion, about hope. And we'll talk about that. And then we're going to make some digital holiday cards. And by that, I mean, we're going to draw, and then you'll take a cool picture and you can send it to your loved ones. And then we'll kind of wrap up. So that's our event for this evening. So, all right, a Moscow Mule. Nice. We've got some good water. We've got some wine. Fantastic. We are ready to go. So Cole, if you can highlight the paper here, and I'm going to share a little bit about what I do. So for those of you who haven't seen a zine before, this is a zine, a little homemade magazine about what I do. Letters Aligned. Letters Aligned is a company I started in 2014 to do the following things: inspire awe and imagination. This is not an art community that is trying to make things that are perfect and then be done, but it's supposed to spark new ideas moving forward. So everything we do today is great, but I hope that afterwards you feel even more inspired to do your own creative practice, whatever that may be. Oh, we're going to embrace imperfection, everyone. No one's getting a grade. You're not turning anything in. This is a time to just get out of your head, into your hand, and make some marks on a page. And the connective power of art. By making art together, we're connecting to each other, to this community. We're connecting communities. I had never been connected to EMU before, and now here we are. And also supporting local businesses as well. All of my products that I have printed are printed locally here in the Bay Area, and that's really important to me. There you go. So that's what I do. And what we're going to do now is we're going to get a little warm up going. Ooh, spiced apple by Captain Morgan with apple juice. Yum. Okay, so you're going to get out your first piece of paper, and we're going to do a little warm up. This warm up is to hopefully get you just nice and calm. So the word we're going to warm up with is the word calm. And what I want you to do is just for a minute or so, 2 minutes, I want you to write the word calm in 8 different ways. 8 different ways, whatever that means to you. And I'll do some up here so that way to spark your imagination. But if you want to challenge yourself, don't look at the screen until I tell you to come back. Wow, I just wrote an E. So there you go. My brain's a little tired already. But that's okay. We're embracing imperfection. Just cross it out and move on. I'm on 7, so I'm going to do just one more. All right, so wherever you are, go and finish up that last calm. You can always keep working on it. This is a fun just activity to get, again, out of your head, into your hand. And I don't know about you, but I feel kind of ready to keep going now because I've been able to put some pen on the paper. So we wrote calm 8 times, and 8 is a really important number for right now because we're about to start an 8-day holiday, the holiday of Hanukkah. Now, some of you on this call may have celebrated Hanukkah many times, and some may have never celebrated Hanukkah. So we're going to tell the story of Hanukkah. And just a reminder, even if you've celebrated this a bajillion times, you can always relearn it and come to stories anew. In the same way we read Torah once a year, the same stories over and over, it's good to read the same stories over and over and see how they affect us in this season. All right, so to tell the story of Hanukkah, of course, what do we have? We have another zine. We love zines here at Letters Aligned. They're such a fun way to learn things. This is a zine I made with some of my friends over at EdJudaica. They're a pretty cool group of people. And it goes like this, the Hanukkah story. Once upon a time. So in year 168 BCE, there was this guy named King Antiochus, and he wanted to ban Judaism in the land of Judah. And that meant no Shabbat, no Hebrew, all those kinds of things. But there was a family, the Maccabee family, and they wanted to fight back. They said they wanted to keep living their Jewish lives the way they wanted to. We got this. So they prepared, fought, and finally they won back the temple. This is the temple in Jerusalem. Can't you tell? Yay, we did it. And they held a dedication of the temple. They had to clean it in a fancy way, in a spiritual way, because the temple had been taken over by the Greek Syrian Empire of King Antiochus, and they needed to make it right for them, right? They needed to make it holy again for them. And this dedication ceremony included a menorah. That's what this thing is. Time to clean this place up. But it's not the kind of cleaning that involves soap and scrubbing. It's more of a spiritual cleaning. And for that, they needed this menorah and they needed oil. Whoops, sorry about that. Sorry about that. There we go. They needed oil, but there was not enough oil to last for the entire ceremony. Oh, goodness. Will there be enough? Well, wait a minute. Or was there? It was a miracle. The oil lasted 8 whole days. There was enough oil. Wow, what a miracle. On Hanukkah, we celebrate the courage of the Maccabees and the miracle of the oil. And so we say, Chag Urim Sameach, happy festival of lights. So this is the story of Hanukkah, but then later we had to learn, how are we going to celebrate it? Even if there's a story, it doesn't mean we know the rules for how to celebrate it. And so that's where the rabbis come in. And the rabbis, there were 2 rabbis. Cole, you can put it back on my face. There were 2 rabbis, Hillel and Shammai in particular. This is a wine menorah and wine bottle menorah. And they had 2 different opinions of how to celebrate this festival. They wanted to have some remembrance of the oil, right? That lasted 8 whole days. What a miracle. And they had different opinions of how to do that. So one of them, Shammai, said, well, wouldn't it be more accurate and more kind of in line with what actually happened to start with lighting 8 candles at once? And then every night you would take one away and you would see the diminishment of the oil, and you would start with the fullness of the miracle, and it would diminish one night at a time until you got to the end. My menorah almost fell over. And Hillel said, well, wait a minute. What if we start with 1 candle, and as the nights go on, we add a light and we show how much more incredible this miracle is as it gets bigger and bigger. And so what's really interesting about this story is the rabbis actually say that Shammai's opinion, the first guy who said, let's start with 8 candles, his was actually more analytically accurate, they would say. It was kind of maybe more suited to the actual story. But what they liked about Hillel's is they liked that it inspired hope in the people. And so for this season, I hope that as you light your Hanukiah, if you choose to do so, as you add a light each night, you increase your sense of hope and your sense of goodness during these times, which I think we could all use. So in order to increase our sense of goodness, we are going to make some art, and we're going to share that art with everyone. And that's going to be kind of like our light that we're sharing out into the world. Well, first we need to know exactly how to light the Hanukiah. So what I have here is my wine bottle Hanukiah, very appropriate for tonight. You can see me through here. There you go. Yep. This is nothing more than a cork with a Hanukiah that you can fit into a wine bottle. How cool is that? I got it last year and I'm so excited to share it with you all. So here's how you light a Hanukiah. Whoops, I have it backwards. You start with a candle on the right and you have a candle in the middle, the shamash. And this is the candle that lights each of the Hanukkah candles that go across. So a little practical lesson here. So you always start on the right and you add them next all the way here. But then when you light them, you light the newest candle first. So we're going to make some art that's going to remind us of that as well. So it's going to be some art that's also useful, but in a subtle, sneaky way. Because I think this is one of those things, a lot of people the night before Hanukkah, they're like, oh shoot, how do I actually do this again? I completely forgot. I know there's 8 candles, but in which order do they go? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do some art again to share this story of Hanukkah. Sound good? Everyone's good? Okay, great. I'm going to put my Hanukkah menorah up here. Fun fact, a menorah is really just a candelabra. A Hanukkah menorah, or Hanukiah, is a specific menorah for this holiday. All right, there we go. Thanks, Cole. This is great. Okay, so we're going to do some drawing. Who's excited to draw? Oh, don't forget to sip if you haven't sipped in a minute since we started. It's been 20 whole minutes. If you haven't sipped yet, make sure you take a sip. Okay. So to do this, we are going to learn a very simple font that I hope is also just a nice skill for you to learn moving on. We're going to end up drawing this Happy Hanukkah with a menorah, a Hanukiah, and we're going to add a few other things that I haven't put on here yet. Okay. Okay. So you have your paper, and we're going to start by writing Happy Hanukkah. And the way we're going to do it is you are going to pretend that you have coming out of your pen a roll of tape, kind of like a roll of painter's tape. And because of that, when you write, you're going to write in strips like this. I'll show you what I mean. So when you write, each line you make is going to be kind of like a strip of tape. And you're going to go ahead, and I'll write the first couple letters for you to see what I mean. And you're going to write out your letters as if you're making them out of tape. What that means is every width of your lines is going to be even. And it's going to create a really cool font that you can then color in. And it's going to be kind of an alternative to making bubble letters, which can sometimes be daunting. And I actually really hate making bubble letters because I think they never turn out the way I want them to. So you're going to jump on in, dive right on in with your pen, and you're going to write out happy across the top. With this technique, like you're using blue tape, you don't even have to color it in yet. And make sure you take your time. There's no rush. Hopefully this hour is a gift you can give to yourself. Now, when you get to the round parts of the peas, blue tape wouldn't really round off like that. So, just do what you wish blue tape could do and you can round it off. If anyone's actually tried to write letters out of blue tape, then you definitely know that you can't get that curve. All right. And once you have happy written out, you can go ahead and start writing Hanukkah. And the way you're going to think about writing Hanukkah is you want it to be nice and centered under your happy. So wherever your happy is, somewhere in this middle part of the page, the center letter of Hanukkah, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus an exclamation point is going to be that U. So one kind of fun trick is if you want it to be centered, you think about the center letters here, and you can start with them. And you can move out from either side of the center letters. And this is a great way whenever you're trying to make some word art on a piece of paper, like as opposed to on a computer where it's a lot easier to copy and paste and move things. If you want it to get nice and aligned, you can start at the center and move out. So I'll start at the center with my U, and then I'll do this side. Still doing that painter's tape version. Also, I chose how we're going to spell Hanukkah, which is well, actually, you can write it however you want, but I'm doing Chanukah. If you are familiar with Hanukkah and have been celebrating it for a long time, then you know that everyone has their special way of writing Hanukkah in English. And I like to tell my students whenever they're like, how do I spell this thing in English? And I'm like, well, it's not in English, so it's all going to be phonetic, and sometimes people are going to do it differently. So there you go. They hate that answer, by the way. They're like, but how do I write it? And I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. All right. And don't forget an exclamation point as well. So. All right, now I'm going on the other side. Let's see, got an N. Sometimes writing backwards is pretty tricky, but I think one of the things that's cool is it exercises a different part of your brain. And if you're really trying to get out of whatever's been going on and just relax, nothing like trying to write something backwards to do that. Yeah, that's pretty even. Nice. I'm good with that. All right, we'll just take a moment and let folks catch up. And then once you've gotten your Happy Hanukkah written out, you're going to color it in. Yes, with your pen. It's good. It's nice and meditative to color it in with your pen. And it's just to show that you don't need fancy materials to just make something. It's a big part of what I do with my art. I'm writing on printer paper right now, and when I buy my pens, I buy like a 24 pack from Office Max of just Uniball pens, because I don't know, I go through them so often, and sometimes it feels like it takes off the pressure of having to, I don't know, make a piece of art. You just draw. All right. Yeah, so far so good. I think my favorite part of Hanukkah is probably making latkes, and I just ordered a bunch of russet potatoes and also some sweet potatoes. So I don't know if other folks are making latkes for Hanukkah starting tomorrow or really anytime, but I always recommend experimenting with different root vegetables. I've made beets in the latkes before. It's kind of a untapped, for me, a spot of creativity. You know, put some golden beets, some red beets. I think Hanukkah, like I said earlier, is coming at just the right time. I think I could really use a little pick me up with some new flavors. And definitely sharing cards and art is, I think, sometimes my favorite part too, being able to send something to people. All right, so I'm just coming up on the end of my coloring in Happy Hanukkah. And then I'm just gonna keep on moving along, and we will be able to send you a final image. And I know that Cole has some images as well that we can always send out if you aren't caught up, but hopefully you should have the outline so you can always be finishing it in. All right, so one of the cool skills that we're gonna learn tonight, we're gonna learn a couple little tips and tricks that I've learned over the years of lettering. And one is how to do shadow and make it look like there's a light coming, right? So a big thing for us is that this is the Festival of Lights. So we're gonna have a light source coming from our 2 candles that are gonna be over here. And what that means is it's gonna cast a shadow, right? When there's a light, there's a shadow. And the shadow is going to be on this side of the word. So let's say my wine is the light, which it is, and it's going to cast a shadow over here. So on the top of every letter and to the left of every letter. And this is where you're going to have to use nice, calm, steady hand. And so I'm glad we did calm as our warm-up word. What you're going to do is you're going to go through each letter and you're going to make accent lines on the top and to the left of each part of the letter. So the trick here is, I'll move my wine so I don't accidentally knock it over, which I 100% would if I kept it there. The trick is to keep that space between the accent line and the letter equidistant throughout, and that'll make it look really even. So you're going to make an accent line over the top and to the left of each part of the letter. So for example, the H is done. You can see I didn't put a line underneath and I didn't put a line to the right. Okay. This is one of those things that just takes a lot of practice for seeing where it is. I'll show you what to do if you make a mistake, which is, as you should be able to tell from how I do art now, keep going. But there's also a couple tricks if you do make a mistake to make it look like you totally meant it. All right. Got our accent lines. To the right and on the top. Sometimes when you go inside the letter, that can be a little tricky, but the top of the inside of the letter is actually the bottom of the inside of the letter. It's kind of almost like a riddle or something. Well, again, you're trying to keep the line equidistant. It's a nice little meditation. This is actually a really great meditation if you ever just need to doodle something you don't know what to doodle. You could grab the newspaper and just do some accent lines on the headlines. We have the Chronicle here, but I'm sure wherever you are, there's, oh, and then sometimes there's an angle that's a little tricky and you have to just make a judgment call, like the Y, right? It's kind of a little bit underneath, but it's also to the left. So I'm going to do it. So you're going to do that for all of your letters. All of your letters, you're going to make your accent lines. All right. So if you notice, we're doing hand drawing today, and a lot of illustrators use online software these days, and I don't. And I think part of it's just because it feels good to, you know, hold something. I mean, I guess they hold stuff and put it on the tablet, but you know, being able to hold something and really feel it and even get ink on your hand, to me, is part of the process. I'm not like a Kindle person. No problem with that. This is just how I do things. And so it's nice, especially in a time when so much is on the screen, to just draw on paper. All right. So we're just coming up, and I'm sure I'm moving at a different pace. This is, we'll give some time for folks to catch up. to me, the more you kind of put your love into your drawing, just like with cooking and sharing food, you can really tell. It doesn't mean it looks a certain way. You can just kind of feel that it has your love in it. So go ahead and see if you can put some of that in there as well. Happy Hanukkah. Hanukkah actually means rededication, and it's about that story we just told of rededicating the temple. And it's funny because I think, you know, as a kid, Hanukkah, I don't know, it could have meant presents for all I knew, but it's actually, there's this really whole other historical side to the holiday aside from the oil, which really was how the rabbis decided how we would celebrate the holiday moving forward, which brings up all the interesting questions of, you know, how do we tell history, and what parts do we kind of highlight? All right, I'll just take another minute or so. Let you do your accent lines. If you have any questions about what I'm drawing as they're coming up, feel free to ask them. Again, more about like what's happening here. We'll definitely have time at the end for bigger questions, but just want to make sure that you know that if you have anything, you can always put it in the chat. All right. We are going to now move on to our Hanukiah. And so just as a reminder what it's going to look like, it's very simple, but this can actually be quite daunting to draw and to do so kind of nice and evenly. So I'm going to show you, this is our final product. And if you notice, it's ready for the first night of Hanukkah. And that's what I mean by it's going to be kind of like sneakily helpful for us, is we're going to have our first light candle here, our shamash lit here. And then we're going to add some other things as well. Like I said, this is kind of just like the base of our drawing. And so I'm going to take you through step by step how to make it nice and even without using a ruler. So if you haven't noticed, we don't use a ruler with letters aligned because that wouldn't allow us to be imperfect, which, well, maybe it would. I don't know. Okay, so you're going to find the center of your words, wherever that is, right? You can use your pen if you want. You can kind of just guesstimate. Whoops. And we're going to start with that centerpiece, okay? The helper candle. And you're going to just take a little space below, and you're going to make just another piece of blue tape, but with your, with drawing, not actual blue tape. I think that's just like a helpful way for me to think about it. Okay, so this is your center candle, and you can make whatever kind of stand you want. It could be more ornate or just kind of simple. I'm going to go nice and simple like that. And we're going to color it in so we're not worried about these little lines in the middle. And this is where we're going to add our branches. And so, it's one of those things that it's like an aha moment. You don't realize it's this easy until you do it. But I used to always start with the outside and work in. And then what would happen is it would get nice and squished. But duh, if you work from the inside out, then you never have to worry about spacing. So you're going to start with your blue tape going out this way. And we're going to do 4 of these because there's 2 ends on each. 2 times 4 is 8. There you go. All right. And so what you're going to do is, as you're making your little branches, see if you can keep them as even as possible up here on the top line, and see if you can keep them as equidistant as possible in between each branch. And this is, again, kind of a nice little practice for your brain, right? How focused can you be on this? Try and keep those pieces of blue tape even. It's not like all of a sudden you got a different kind of tape. There we go. That's 2. That's 3. And we got 1 more. It's funny. Sometimes when I draw Hanukkah, I'm always like, I've actually never seen this exact Hanukkah in life. Like all of mine are like silly and have like cartoon characters on them, or my wine bottle one, or I have one that I made out of like a ceramic painted pottery place. And I painted cats on it. So I don't even have one that looks like this, but to me, this is like the quintessential menorah shape. So I like to draw it. It feels nice and classic. All right, and just like with your letters, you're going to do some coloring in. Color, color, color. Kind of looks like a maze for a minute. You got to be nice and focused on the branches and not color in those middle spaces. There we go. So if you're one of those people on the call right now who would have said to me before, I can't even draw a stick figure, I'll say, yeah, but now you can draw a Hanukiah. By the way, anytime someone tells me I can't even draw a stick figure, I very snarkily just teach them how to draw a stick figure. I'm like, here's a circle for the head. And they're like, no, 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 I know. I'm like, oh, so you do know how to draw a stick figure. I don't know what it is about drawing. Everyone's so shy about it. I think it's because as kids, we're taught that only photorealistic art is like art. That's at least what I, just that's good. Being good at art. You are good at art growing up if you can make something look realistic. And I think that's so unfortunate because we can miss so much. I didn't get into art until a lot later. I took art in high school for a semester because I had to, and then I loved it. And I took a semester of ceramics against my guidance counselor's advice, but oh well. It was fun. I made friends. I made cool things. All right. And now here I am, drawing and loving it. It's my favorite thing to do after a long day. All right, we're just getting there. As you're coloring it in, you might be saying to yourself, oh no, it's not perfectly colored in. There's like spots missing, to which I would say to you, which of course, there's no such thing as perfect, but also I would say, I think it makes it look actually more interesting. It also matches your letters. And so I like that sense of matching. And that's why sometimes I use one material for the whole piece. It kind of helps it feel cohesive. You also can totally color it in. I have a Sharpie here. I could just color it in, but I don't know. I think there's something sweet about that. Makes it feel homemade, which it is. All right. So again, you can finish this on your own. So what we'll do is, this is to remind ourselves of the first night of Hanukkah, where to light our candle. So we're going to do like a teardrop kind of a shape for the flame over the middle candle, a shamash, the helper, and on the right. And you can put a wick up, but I don't know, I think there's a nice graphic quality to just having the flame there, right? It's the most simple, abstract way of explaining what we want it to say. There's this great artist, Christoph Niemann, and he talks about abstractions, which is like the most simple thing you need to understand what a thing is, right? Like this is clearly a flame, and you don't need it to look realistic. It just is a flame. All right. Okay, we're going to move into the last little bits. I'm going to teach you one more kind of fun skill that was an aha moment for me. Actually, two more, and they'll be quick. And then we'll start getting towards the end of wrapping up our piece and getting more into questions and conversation. So, okay, I always like to add little thought bubbles or word bubbles around. And one other thing we're going to write is Chag Urim Sameach. We're going to write it in English, and you can write it in whatever handwriting you want. It looks like this, Chag Urim Sameach, okay? It means Happy Festival of Lights. And so what I want to show you is how to make it look like it's part of a word bubble without having to map it out perfectly. So in the past, I've drawn a word bubble and then tried to fill it in. And again, similar to the menorah, the Hanukiah, it always gets, the spacing is all scrunchy and it makes me feel like, ugh, that's a mistake. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to write it out. So I'm going to write it just in this corner, and I'm going to make kind of narrow letters, okay? If you've ever tried to make narrow letters, we're going to write Chag Urim on the same line. See if you can make letters that are nice and snug together, kind of like sardines in a can, nice and snug. Chag Urim, okay. Sameach. Okay. And then this is the aha moment that I had a little while ago, and it changed my life forever. Once you have it, then you can put the thought bubble around it, right? How cool is that? And then it's going to be the perfect shape, or the speech bubble. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then I want you to go ahead and thicken up that line around it. It'll help it look kind of graphic-y and nice. And when you take a picture of this eventually, it'll help it stand out as well. All right, like that. Chag Urim Sameach. And that's going to be another kind of fun educational piece of your holiday card. It's going to teach us how to say Happy Hanukkah 2 ways. I like art that teaches us something. So this is teaching us how to say Happy Hanukkah 2 ways. It's teaching us how to light the Hanukkah menorah. And what we're going to do for the last piece is we're going to learn how to do a big like starburst of light. So again, this is the Festival of Lights. We want it to look like pow, like lots of energy. And so this is a really cool trick if you want to make kind of a big burst of light coming out of it. So what you do is you pick a center point. And for us, the center point is going to be the tip of this middle flame, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your pen, you're going to hover it over the tip of the middle flame, and you're going to make lines coming out in all directions with a pretty nice little width around, or like nice little radius around your drawing. And every time you make a line, you're going to come back to that center dot. And that's really, and that's going to help it look like the light is really coming out from the center. Every single time you come back to the center dot. And it's almost like you're drawing the line, but you only put your pen down at some point. Ooh, this one's hard. I'm going to move my paper. Also, some people forget that you can move your paper if it's not in the right place, not just your hand. There we go. Oh, this is such a happy Hanukkah card. I'm excited to send it and also put it in my window. And we'll talk about why you might want to put it in your window as well. All right. Oh yeah, you can also see I'm using a clipboard. Like I said, I use pretty much as office supplies to draw. I don't know. It's who I am. It's how I do things. All right. So now once you have a bunch of starbursty things coming out of your, but I'm going to move the clipboard now because it's getting in my way. How do I do that? Here we go. Now that you have a bunch of starbursty things out, you have a couple options. I'm going to show you one option. Option number one is you leave it and it looks nice and bright and centered and beautiful. The other option is you can connect them and you can make a fun little kind of like pow sign, like from a comic book. So you just go through and you connect a bottom to a top. You start somewhere and you just add in these connecting lines and you end up with a really nice and symmetrical pow. Oh, and if you have a spot that's kind of lacking some lines, you just go back to that middle point. There we go. And some are going to be more, wider. Oop, I need one here. I'm missing one here. All right. And some are going to be narrower, and that's just fine. That's why it looks cool. Okay. And this is like a really big pow happy Hanukkah sign. Oh, okay. Turning my paper around. Oh, it's kind of smushed up against the edge. That's okay. All right. Nice. Pow. Happy Hanukkah. That's fun. Let me get all these other papers out of the way. Hang on a second. Whoops. There we go. All right. So we're just coming up on the end here of our Happy Hanukkah card. And I want to tell you, and then there's one last thing you can do with your PAL. If you decided to connect them, you didn't have to connect them. That was up to you. But if you decided to, you can pick one side of them and do a little bit of like a thickening here, and it'll make it look nice and dimensional. So just in the same way we did those accent lines, just pick like the right side of each little, you know, sphere thing, each little jaggedy part, and you can just do a little, add some weight to it, and it'll give it that depth. Happy Hanukkah. Yay. All right. Almost there. And again, you're working at your own pace. So if you need to finish on your own, it's all good. You're not turning anything in. I hope the process is just as fun as seeing your final product. Okay. All right. So now you have your card. It's super fun. It's super centered. I hope it was good. So there's two things you can do now. One is you can take after this lesson, after this lecture, you can take a nice photo in good light and you can have fun editing it. Our phones are built in with all these little filters and you can like filter it however you want. And then you can send it to someone as like a little digital card, text them. It doesn't have to be a fancy service. Just text them and say, Happy Hanukkah, I made this card for you. I did it all by myself and I love you. That's what you should say. The other thing you can do is take your piece of paper and put it in the window. There's a tradition that you're supposed to put your Hanukkah on the window to help spread the light. I'm sure there's a lot of interpretations for why we do that. The one I like to go with is that, you know, it helps share in the light of this holiday. And as we increase our hope and increase our candle count, we can see that in our neighborhood. And even if no one in your neighborhood is celebrating Hanukkah, like I don't think any of my neighbors are celebrating Hanukkah, that's okay. It's okay to be proud of it and to put it out there in the window and to share the goodness of this holiday. So I think we're coming just to the end of the drawing part, but I wanted to now open it up for any questions. I'm happy to talk about absolutely anything, like anything from what I'm sipping to how I started art to why I use pen, whatever you prefer, to whatever you want to know. I'm here to talk. And also, I hope that was fun. So maybe if you want to share, what books am I currently reading? Nice. I am currently reading a really interesting book. This one is called A Resting Dress. Actually, you're right next to my bookshelf. It's called A Resting Dress, and it's about the gold rush and decency laws and cross-dressing laws during the gold rush and like what happened around that. It's fascinating. It's by someone from SF State. I'd like to know about letters aligned, sure. And also why pen? Yeah, why pen? So let's start with why pen and then letters aligned. So to me, art is improv. Life is improv. You're always making mistakes. You always have to keep going. I use pencil sometimes to plot out bigger pieces, but only to plot them out. And I think pen for me forces me to just jump in to projects. And it forces me to work with my mistakes and kind of forgive myself. It's a little bit of a spiritual practice to use pen. You know, I think about, I'm inspired by calligraphy artists. My grandmother was a calligraphy artist. And as my role as a Jewish educator, I try and get students inspired by Torah and sofars, sofaret, and scribes of Torahs, and how amazing it is to write in ink on something that's going to last. And yeah, I just think it's a great practice to use pen. Letters aligned. So letters aligned is it's a project, it's a company, it's all of the above. It's a store, it's a education place. It's called Letters Aligned. I came up with the name in 2014 because when I draw, I started with lettering, and it's going to sound cheesy, but it aligns me. It puts me in alignment. It makes me feel grounded, but it's also about how letters fit on a page and how sacred that is. Both in my connection with Hebrew and Torah, but also with calligraphy. And also I'm a poet. And so like the way of putting words together, putting letters together is work and it's art. So it kind of all goes to that. All right, so let's see. Hi, graphic design major here. How did you get into graphic design and zine making? What's your favorite part of your career and what kind of pen are you using? I'm using a Uniball. It's like a 0.7 something. I also use microns. I use all sorts of pens. I'm not discriminating. I use Sharpie. I use ballpoint pen that you get from the hotel, whatever is good. I got into drawing. So I think there are two kinds of kids in the world. I think there are kids who keep drawing. I think there are kids who stop drawing, but no one doesn't start drawing. Everyone draws. And for some reason, people stop. And I think it's because of the way we talk about art with kids. I work with kids in my full-time job. And it's so amazing how early they identify as either good at art or not good at art. And it's very early. And I think I never stopped, but I also don't, I think I might be the exception to the rule because I was never like excellent at art, but I just kind of kept drawing. And then when I was in 7th grade, I started art therapy. I had some health things happening and I needed a way to express what was in. And so I started art therapy and that just completely changed my life. And yeah, so that was awesome. And then in high school doing art, my Gram, who's 93, she's doing great right now. She was a calligraphy artist for a long time. So that really got me into it. And then zines are my favorite because they're just so accessible and fun. And they give you the sense of completion of a project. If you want to see on my paper, so this is a zine I made with Ed Judaica. They're a Jewish ed company. My friend I met at divinity school started. And this is the Hanukkah story you saw. But what's cool about zines is when you open them up, you also have the other side. And so this is a whole Hanukkah infographic, right? And this is them if you want to check them out. They're super cool. But they're fun. And I make zines for my students. I make them make zines. I just think they're fun things that aren't too time intensive. What's my favorite part of my career? Making things for people that love them. I recently self-published my first book, and I think my favorite part is seeing people interact with it and getting joy from it. It's a book about nature and awe, and it has a lot to do with like my Jewish spiritual practices of going outside. And when people get joy from my work, that's it. That's the best part of my work. All right.
Yeah,
oh, good. I'm glad that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure if you have access to the question and answer. So I'll just read them off. I know we've had some issues with that in the past. We've got a couple in there right now. First one is this your full-time job? And if not, like, what is it?
Yeah, great question. So I joke that I have 2 full-time jobs because everything takes all the time, right? No, but I work full-time for Camp Tawanga, which is a Jewish residential camp by Yosemite, and also has an office in San Francisco. And I'm assistant director of Jewish life and learning there. And I run our Bar Bat and B'nai Mitzvah program and other Jewish programs. And then this I do after work and all the time. I have to draw. It's like, I think with a lot of artists, you'll hear that they have to do what they do. It just comes out of them. And if they don't, like if I haven't drawn in a while, I like feel sticky in the same way some people, if they don't move their bodies or whatever. I kind of wish I felt that way if I didn't move my body, but it's like more about if I don't draw. Yeah.
The next one we have is, what is your favorite zine that you have written? And if you have it nearby or even in another room, and if you wanted to go grab it, feel free.
Oh my goodness. I have so many good ones. I love the ones, I did a mini bio series. I'll grab it. It's right here. Hold on one moment. All right. I have, during the summer with a lot of the protesting around racial justice, I'm an educator. That's like what everything I do is about teaching. And so I did a little bio series about just amazing Black women who have done just great work. So I did a mini bio on Callie House, who is huge in the reparations movement at the end of emancipation. This one, I did a little one on Ida B. Wells, and then I did one on Audre Lorde. And so there are these little bios just to teach people, right? Like not everyone's going to sit down and read a full biography, but they want to learn. So I wrote out, I did some research. I did like a little biography. I did some of their famous quotes, some things you might not know about them. And then, you know, just about learning more. And I did one on Angela Davis, just like, you know, people that you might want to know about. And then I also did a little Shabbat Siddur for myself for staying with the Jewish theme. This is just some Friday night blessings. So Shabbat Shalom, Friday night blessings. And then I just, you know, made a little zine for myself with the blessings, because why not? And it makes me feel good. And what are you releasing this Shabbat? In terms of ones that I like give out to the world, aside from this one I made for my 7th graders. It's a gratitude guide. I asked them to do a conversation with their families every week for a while. And the questions are in here. Take 3 deep breaths. What's something you're grateful for this week? You know, what's something you're grateful for always? And then I have them color it in. And it makes tangible, right? If you tell a student, you know, lead your family in a gratitude guide, probably won't. But if you give them a thing and you say, here's your guidebook, it makes it more real. And then the last one I'll show, I have is another kind of interactive one. It's called This Is Not a Paperclip. And the idea is, it's based off of a game I play. Oh, this one's already filled in. Dang it. Here's one that's not. This is not a paperclip. And then each one has, this is not a paperclip. It is, and then you have to draw something about it, right? Like you have to interpret it in some way. And I use this game to teach interpretation to my students that, you know, it's lines on a page, but you get to, maybe it's a cinnamon bun, maybe it's a spaceship, maybe it's a skateboard. And then you can go through and the instructions are on the back. So here's, for example, you know, it's a maze, it's a unicorn, it's snowshoes. So those are some of my favorite zines.
Thank you. Those were lovely. We have a couple more in the Q&A. What is the name of your book?
My book, it's called Isn't It Amazing? Here, let me see if I have it right here. Everything's kind of close by. I'm kind of in my studio space. It's called Isn't It Amazing? It's written and illustrated by myself. It's printed in Oakland with some community members from Camp Tawonga. And the best part about it is that my really good friend Maya Elise, who's done a lot of music at Camp Tawonga, she played at my wedding. She turned the piece into a song, and so it's also a song for kids. And it's all about awe and connecting to the natural world. It's dedicated to my nieces. And so an example is, isn't it amazing that seeds grow into trees, how plants eat up the sunlight and leaves dance in the breeze? And then you have a live oak tree. So that's an example of my book.
One more we have in our Q&A. Are there any other opportunities we will have to be able to watch other presentations, lectures, any other thing that you have done that is online somewhere where people could find you, or any place where people could find you online?
Yes, I have my website. It's very simple. It's lettersalign.com. And my Instagram is @lettersalign. I'm working on new projects all the time. I'm currently working on a collection of poetry, again, well, for kids, but for everyone, based on what we can learn in gardens and kind of the lessons of, you know, life and death that happen when you grow plants, and like the seasons and how much you can learn. A lot of that's inspired by my work at Camp Tawonga. And so there's tons of stuff on my Instagram. There's a little bit on my website, but you can always reach out to me. Email, it's all letters aligned. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Oh, do you think anyone can do art, or is there artists and folks who dabble? I think anyone can do art. Of course, anyone can do art. I think The phrase artist is really interesting. I think I had a hard time with the phrase artist, like just the designation for a while. I was like, what's the difference between being an artist and not being an artist? Is it like doing art? Because we all do art, you know, like what is that? But yeah, I think everyone does art, but I think also, you know, it's a tool for different reasons. Like I was in art therapy and it was a different kind of art than one of my best friends. She's a painter. She's like an actual oil painter in England. Like she like literally just paints oil paintings and sells them like old school style. Like no one does that, right? But she does that. That's a very different than what I do. So there's different kinds of art, right? I think I'm more folk art, you know? So. Yeah, this was fun. Thank you all for having me. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to stick around. I also, like I said, I'm pretty much like this all the time. So if you want to text me on Instagram or email me, I'd be happy to talk. I'm always down to see people's art if you want to have someone to share it with. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, am I here? Can people see me? I don't know.
They certainly can.
They can. Hi. I'd like to thank you all for coming this evening. I want to once again wish you a beautiful and wonderful Hanukkah. And I've got a project for you all out there. If you want to, and only if you want to, email me the copy of the picture you made, and I will post it on the Jewish Studies Facebook page. It'll be kind of cool to have some of these up there during the Hanukkah holiday. Please do send it to me, and I'd be happy to post it. Put your name on it, or if you want to remain anonymous, that's okay too. But I got a number of notes saying how much people enjoyed this, and I thought it was fabulous. I'm grateful for Meg Adler. She was just wonderful, and it was a glorious evening. Happy Hanukkah to all of you from EMU Jewish Studies. I will see you all again in January. Take very, very good care of yourselves. Please be careful, stay safe. Love you all. Good night.